Another quarter, another amount of crazy growth from Nvidia. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition, all the AI headline news you need in around 5 minutes. We kick off today with an earnings report from Nvidia, and surprise, surprise, it just keeps getting bigger. The Wall Street Journal writes, Nvidia delivered a record quarter and signaled that the AI boom is still going strong, driving its already meteoric stock up above $1,000 a share. Revenue last quarter more than tripled year over year to $26 billion, and net profit was up 7x to $14.88 billion. Both were quarterly records and both beat analyst expectations. The stock market obviously loved this, with share prices up 6% in pre-market trading following the report, and a single share surpassing $1,000. One of the things that's also really interesting, though, is that while currently the big cloud companies like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon account for around 45% of Nvidia's data center revenue, they're clearly trying to move to a world where they're not just selling to data centers, but also selling directly to companies. At Dell's big annual event this week, for example, Nvidia and Dell talked about how they were trying to create the AI factories of the future, where individual companies had more direct access to this sort of capacity. CEO Jensen Huang said, "We are poised for our next wave of growth." From Bloomberg, Nvidia emphasized Wednesday that it wants to sell its technology to a wider market, expanding beyond the giant cloud computing providers known as hyperscalers. Huang said that AI is moving to consumer internet companies, car makers, biotechnology, and healthcare customers. The large-scale deployment of Nvidia chips by Elon Musk's Tesla is one sign of that expansion. It continues to be a battle for Nvidia to keep up with demand. Said Huang, "Nobody has ever manufactured supercomputers at volume. We're doing the best we can." The one other interesting note, as called out by The Verge, was that Nvidia will now make new AI chips every single year. Said Huang, "I can announce that after Blackwell, there's another chip. We're on a 1-year rhythm." The Verge points out that until now, Nvidia produced a new architecture roughly once every 2 years, Ampere in 2020, Hopper in 2022, Blackwell in 2024, but that everything is getting faster now. Next up in the headlines, you'll remember that recently Microsoft inked a deal with UAE-based G42. Part of why I was so interested in the deal is that it seemed to have been facilitated by the Department of Commerce and reflected geopolitics as much as business considerations. Basically, G42 had been right at the center of the US-China tension, and the US had been putting a ton of pressure on it to pick a side. Well, pick a side it did, and Microsoft's minority investment of $1.5 billion was part of that picking. Still, it's not without complications. Writes Reuters, Microsoft President Brad Smith said the tech company's high-profile deal with the UAE-backed AI firm G42 could eventually involve the transfer of sophisticated chips and tools, a move that a senior Republican congressman warned could have national security implications. Said Michael McCall, the Republican chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, "Despite the significant national security implications, Congress still has not received a comprehensive briefing from the executive branch about this agreement. I am concerned the right guardrails are not in place to protect sensitive US origin technology from Chinese espionage, given the CCP's interest in the UAE." To me, this sounds a little bit like if this really was coming from the Department of Commerce, that was obviously a White House facilitated deal that Congress just doesn't have visibility into. Anyway, there's tons more details here, but what's interesting to me continues to be just the geopolitical implications of AI and how quickly they've become an ongoing concern. In the world of M&A, I'm wondering if we're not about to see a bit of a wave of consolidation in the AI space. We've had a couple boom years of funding, and now we're very naturally in the phase where companies are figuring out if there's enough of a there to raise a next round, or if it makes sense to try to join up with someone bigger. One company seemingly going through that decision-making process is Adept, which was valued by investors at more than $1 billion last year, and which the information reports has held talks recently around a possible sale or strategic partnership with large tech companies, most notably Meta. Adept is in the much vaunted AI agent space, and of course that means they're dealing with not only intense competition from every angle and every direction, but also the fact that AI agents are still at this point highly theoretical. There is an existing consumer demand to tap into. It's a new behavior in a new category that's being invented on the fly. When it comes to something that challenging, they may decide that it makes sense to do that from within one of the big giants that has the capital to actually pursue it to its full ends. Speaking of big companies, in what will be a surprise to no one, Amazon is apparently planning to give Alexa an AI upgrade, as well as a monthly subscription fee. Notably, this will not be included in Amazon Prime subscriptions. Writes CNBC, Amazon will launch a more conversational version of Alexa later this year, potentially positioning it to better compete with new generative AI-powered chatbots from companies including Google and OpenAI. Will the end of the year see us watching a souped-up Alexa compete with a souped-up Siri, both of them competing against some brand new OpenAI product? Kind of seems like it. Speaking of an OpenAI product, the Washington Post reports that OpenAI didn't actually copy Scarlett Johansson's voice. They write, when OpenAI issued a casting call last May for a secret project to endow OpenAI's popular ChatGPT with a human voice, the flyer had several requests. The actors should be non-union, they should sound between 25 and 45 years old, and their voices should be warm, engaging, and charismatic. One thing the AI company didn't request, according to interviews with multiple people involved in the process and documents shared by OpenAI in response to questions from the Washington Post, a clone of actress Scarlett Johansson. This, of course, gets to the conversation that's been happening where Scarlett Johansson released a statement expressing concern that she had been asked by OpenAI to use her voice, and when she said no, there ended up being a voice that kind of sounded like her. As I mentioned in a previous episode, I think there are multiple things going on here. There is the legal side of this, which at least this reporting from the Washington Post suggests that there might not be a there. There's also just the broader question of the look and the public's trust or lack thereof in Sam Altman and OpenAI. For now, though, that is going to do it for today's headlines. Stay tuned for the main episode.